This is question 14 on chemistry from section 2 of the 2020 BMAT. So we're given some information about the reactivity of metals R, T, X and Z. And so we're firstly told that R fizzes when it's added to a dilute hydrochloric acid solution. We're also told that metal T precipitates out when R is added to a solution containing compound T. Thirdly, we're told that X is the only one of these metals that occurs naturally on Earth, uncombined with other elements. And finally, we're told that only Z out of these metals is manufactured by electrolysis, and that R and T can be manufactured by heating the oxides with carbon. And so the question is, what is the order of reactivity of these four metals? So firstly, what can we glean from this first statement? So we're told that R fizzes when added to dilute hydrochloric acid, which is normally an indication of a fairly reactive metal, such as sodium or potassium. So from this we can't make any comparisons directly, but we do know that R is fairly reactive. So moving down to our second statement, which tells us that T precipitates out when R is added to a T compound solution. So why don't we write an example equation of that happening? So if we have a T compound such as T chloride, then if we're adding R metal to the solution, what's going to happen? So if T precipitates out, then R occupies the chloride rather than T, and we get T metal. So what does this tell us about the relative reactivity of R and T? So if R preferentially reacts to form the chloride, then that tells you that R is the more reactive metal than T. So that's our first comparison that we can make. So what can we conclude from statement 3 now? So we're told that X is the only element of these four that occurs naturally uncombined with other elements on Earth. What does that tell us about the reactivity of X compared to the others? So it's a sign of a very unreactive metal indeed, that it would occur by itself, not as an oxide or something like that. So that tells us that X has to be the least reactive metal of all of these if it's the only one that occurs uncombined with other elements on Earth. So we know that X is less reactive than all of these metals. So finally, what does statement 4 tell us? So if Z is the only one of these metals to be manufactured by electrolysis, and R and T can be manufactured by simply heating the oxides with carbon, just the way that this statement is worded suggests that heating with carbon is a lower effort process than electrolysis. And so even if we don't know about what this tells us from the relative reactivities of the metals, the wording of the question suggests that it takes more to manufacture metal Z from its compounds than it does to manufacture R and T. And so, of course, if we do have to use electrolysis, this requires an electrical current rather than simple heat. And so all of this suggests that Z is more reactive than R and T. So that's our four metals in order. We've used logic that we've got from each of these statements in turn to construct this order of reactivity. So we can be fairly confident that this is our final answer, which corresponds to F.